So first of all, this idea of the whole brain, instead of just focusing on the left brain analytics, tactical and financial aspects of a person's dealings, isn't anything really new. I think that if you go back and look for it in history, you'll find that there have always been people who utilized a whole-brain approach to looking at the world and identifying opportunities and problems and challenges, and then coming up with creative solutions for opportunities, problems, and challenges. People who have the ability to activate the synapses in both hemispheres of the brain have an advantage, a very clear advantage, in interacting with other human beings. And I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples of little metaphors that you can use. How many of you have been to the city of San Francisco, California? Anybody? You know there's a lot of one-way streets there, right? I don't like to drive in San Francisco, but I have to go there on business fairly often. And it occurred to me one day in getting ready for a presentation on this whole brain concept, what if all you knew how to do was turn left, and you're driving your car in San Francisco? I don't know how you would get anywhere in San Francisco if all you could do is turn left. You would maybe be able to get to the general proximity of where you were going, park your car, you'd have to give up basically, and then walk X number of blocks to get where you're going. In order to be truly effective as a driver, you need to be able to turn left on demand and turn right on demand. Does that sound like a pretty safe and fair analysis? So it's the same thing in sports. I used to play basketball with a fellow named Gary, who was a tremendously gifted offensive player. And the first time I watched him play, I thought this guy may be the best, right out of high school level player that I'd ever seen. And I played with some guys who were All-Americans in high school and college, and I thought this guy was just phenomenal. But I quickly noticed when I was practicing against him that if I made him go to his left, he was completely ineffective. I mean, his shooting percentage went from, 55–60% on the right side of the court to like 10 or 15% on the left side of the court. He couldn't control the ball, he couldn't dribble with his left hand, we could easily set up double teams, take the ball away from him, he couldn't pass the ball. He didn't really pass the ball very well on the right side of the court either, but he had no chance of success if you made him go to his left. And after one of our games, there was a scout from Loyola Marymount University who came up to Gary, and I happened to be standing right next to Gary, and he said, I want to give you an opportunity to come try out for the team. I think you're going to be one of those guys that we're going to give a full ride scholarship to. And Gary was a young man. He was right out of high school. He was about 18 years old, and I think I was about 26 or 27 at the time. And I watched how Gary took this offer, this great opportunity, because Gary didn't know what he wanted to be or where he wanted to go next in his life, but he was sure that he wanted to play basketball. And if you're going to go from high school into the pros, back in those days in particular, you pretty much had to go to college in order to satisfy the requirements and make it to the next level. And so Gary looks at the scout and he says, well, that's a really attractive offer. I'd love to do that. When do we start? He says, well, what I'd like you to do is over the next few weeks, I'd like you to work really hard on your passing, and I'd like you to work on your dribbling, particularly on the left side of the court, and I'd like you to work on your scoring on the left side of the court, because all of our drills for our tryouts, you have to be able to be just as effective going left or right. That makes sense if you're building a team, doesn't it? Because the defense is going to push you to whatever side you're least effective at. And with absolute conviction and total sincerity, Gary looks at this fellow and he says, I don't need to do that. I don't need to go to my left. I'm unstoppable going to my right. And the guy looks at me and he says, do you think you can work with him to, get him to do this? I said, no, I don't think so. And that was the end of Gary's basketball career. He joined the Navy shortly thereafter. And the last I heard, The Navy doesn't have a basketball program to put you through into the pros. It is important to be able to go in both directions.